which is more valuable, Bedlam football wins or all other sports combined? How will Oklahoma State football players perform in the pros? And will Avery Anderson be drafted to the NBA?
We'll answer those questions for you. Stay with us. The Poke Report is next.
Happy Friday, Cowboy Nation. I'm Kylie Janes alongside Cameron Bloom.
This is the last episode of the Poke Report for the spring, and we've got a packed one for you. The NFL draft is less than 2 weeks away, and 4 Cowboys hope to have the commissioner read their names and turn their football dreams into a reality. Marcus Trevino joins us to talk to a couple of them. The big name is Teven Jenkins, who is expected to be the first Cowboy taken. There are typically a lot of expectations placed onto the first rounders. So Marcus, how soon can he make an impact on an NFL roster?
I expect Teven Jenkins to make an almost immediate impact in the NFL because he's the most technically sound of all of the offensive tackles in this draft. He's an elite pass protector, and in a pass protecting league, you need someone like that. What also benefits is that he's very good at run blocking. We saw that a lot this past year. It felt like whenever Chuba Hubbard ran the ball, it was behind Teven Jenkins. So I could see him being used really well in a balanced offense, so like Minnesota with Kirk Cousins, but Dalvin Cook is the show there. So he'd be great there. Tennessee, you've got Ryan Tannehill, who's been playing his mind off in that system under Mike Vrabel. And then, of course, Derrick Henry is the bell cow there, so he would be fine there. And then Indianapolis, you've got Carson Wentz now. He's a very mobile quarterback, so you'll need a guy who can run down the field. Teven Jenkins can do that. And then Jonathan Taylor would be great running behind him. So there's a lot of options for him. First round, he's really lucky to be a first-round draft pick. You can't go wrong, honestly, with Teven Jenkins.
Thank you, Marcus. Hang tight. We'll see you in a few minutes.
Another Cowboy is hoping to take the next step in his career, but he comes from the basketball court and he is not named Cade Cunningham. Sophomore Avery Anderson declared for the 2021 NBA draft without signing an agent, meaning he will remain eligible to return to the Cowboys next season if he is not selected. Tyler Blackburn is with us to talk about Anderson's future. Tyler, how are you doing today?
Hey guys, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for being here. We all know Avery Anderson had a breakout year under Coach Mike Boynton, but is he ready to make the jump to the NBA?
Well, as you mentioned, Anderson had a breakout year filling in as the Cowboys' secondary scorer behind Cade Cunningham. His scoring ability was put on full display against West Virginia when both Cunningham and Isaac Likely did not play, leaving Anderson as the focal point of the offense. He went off that game, torching the Mountaineers with a career-high 31 points while shooting 79% from the field. For the season as a whole, he averaged 12.2 points per game while shooting 48% from the field. While he was a reliable scoring option, his defense and high motor were what really stood out to me. He averaged a steal and a half a game this season and showcased his speed and athleticism on various fast break situations. He has a drive and passion for the game that can't be taught, and head coach Mike Boynton had nothing but praise for his effort and leadership throughout the season.
You know, I think it's a great sign for the future of Oklahoma State basketball that we got a guy who's gotten better. I think he's the most improved player in the country. I think he's the most improved player in our league by far.
In terms of NBA player comparisons, there's a few players that came to mind. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that Anderson is the second coming of these players or near their level just yet, but certain aspects of their games remind me of the OSU star. The first is Pelicans guard Eric Bledsoe. He plays with an intensity and drive much like Anderson and shows no fear when attacking the rim and finishing inside. He's a quick defender who has averaged about 1.5 steals per game in his career, and like Anderson has a good jumper but is somewhat streaky when it comes to his shot. Neither are the best playmakers, but have proven to be a great asset to their teams either off the bench or in a starting role. Here's a look comparing Bledsoe's career averages and Anderson's 2021 season. As you can see, there is a lot of similarities in their production for their respective teams with similar points per game, steals, turnovers, and field goal percentage. Another player I can see comparing to Anderson is 76ers guard Matisse Thybulle, mostly because of their defense. Nicknamed Mathief and the Disruptor, he is a quick and athletic defender who gets steals and converts on the other end with quick cutting action and high IQ. He has averaged 1.5 steals per game in a short professional career, and like Anderson, shows promise attacking the rim and is a danger with his speed and decent size. He has a relatively small sample size in the NBA in only his second season, but I could see Anderson filling in a similar two-way role on whatever team he may end up on.
And what do you expect will happen with this draft process? Is there any team who'd be willing to take a chance on him?
Well, all indications right now are that he is not expected to be drafted into the NBA this year, and that he declared without an agent so he can go through the whole draft and combine process in order to prepare for the 2022 draft. Scouts will be able to tell Anderson what he needs to improve upon in order to improve his draft stock later on. Although I fully expect him to be undrafted this year, I see him as a potential early second rounder in 2022, perhaps even getting into the first round. If he comes back to OSU next season, he slides into that Cade Cunningham role as the team's primary scorer and ball handler, giving him an opportunity to even further boost his stock. Really, any team in need of defense and depth at the guard position will have him on their radar, but specifically if he goes into the first round, I could see him going to the Nets or the Nuggets late, or possibly the Thunder or the Knicks earlier in the second. All these teams either need defensive help at the guard, such as a star-studded Nets team offensively, but who rank 25th in the league for defense, or going to coaches like Mike Malone or Tom Thibodeau, who really value hard-nosed, ball-hound defenders. But keep an eye on Anderson if he stays with OSU. He has a lot he wants to prove, and in turn should have a big impact on the team this next season.
Great stuff, Tyler. We'll definitely stay up to date with Anderson.
Before we take a break, we're going to head back to the football field and back with Marcus Trevino, who's ready to talk about another Cowboy going pro. This time, it's Tylan Wallace. Wallace had a great bounce-back campaign last season after tearing his ACL the year before. But this is a very deep wide receiver class. So Marcus, how soon should he be expected to be drafted, and which team would best fit with his play style?
Yeah, as you mentioned, this is a really deep wide receiver class. So I see him falling out of the first round, but no farther than the third round. I think a team would most benefit from having Tylan Wallace if they already have an established one or two wide receivers to lead the way, and he can fill in the slot. So I really like the Buffalo Bills, who already have Emmanuel Sanders and Stephon Diggs, and Tylan Wallace can replace Cole Beasley. Cole Beasley had a fine season, but when you have Cole Beasley as your slot receiver, you're always looking for a slight upgrade, and I view Tylan Wallace as that. Heck, he might even be a massive upgrade with his talent. Although he timed 4-3 at his pro day, he doesn't really play 4-3. He's more of a possession receiver who goes up for 50-50 balls when the quarterback does it to him. And Josh Allen has a big arm, and he loves going to 50-50. That's what Stephon Diggs. That's how he led the league in receiving yards this past year. So Tylan Wallace would be great there. Another spot I see is Tennessee. They have A.J. Brown already, and they have a good play action with Derrick Henry, so they can just throw it to Tylan Wallace in between the lines, and he'll be great there.
Marcus, thanks so much for taking the time out of your day to do that. Do not go anywhere. Sudeep Tuma will be with us to talk about Rodarius Williams and Chuba Hubbard when we come back.
Hi, OSU. I'm Ryan Novozinski. Novozinsky. Why is it spelled that way? Because I'm from New Jersey. I'm your editor-in-chief of The O'Collie, and I've got some news for you. Are you tired of living in the 1970s? Are you tired of getting paper cuts every time you read our printed product? Are you tired of the batteries in your Walkman running out? Are you tired of the guilt and shame of destroying forests whenever you read our paper? Well, boy, do I got some news for you. Our top scientists have developed a new way to bring our product directly to you. Is it on VHS? No. Is it on DVD? Get out of town. We're bringing it right to your mobile device. Are you cool enough to be a part of this electronic generation? It's called the E-Collie. Sign up for the E-Collie today.
From the plains of Oklahoma is a destination for scholars and thinkers, dreamers and doers. This is where hope, hard work, and integrity create tomorrow's catalyst for change. And excellence is the standard demanded not only of your head, but your heart. This is Oklahoma State University, America's brightest orange.
They say you can't choose your family. But when you choose Oklahoma State, you join the Cowboy family. A family that's loyal and true no matter what. Whether you're from 1,000 miles away or right down the road, if the Cowboys are your family, Stillwater becomes your home. A home where everything you need is a quick walk away. Whether it's time for practice or time for class, nothing is ever too far. Stillwater is a place to connect with your teammates, with the community, and with the world. Everywhere you go, you'll see someone you know, and they'll probably be wearing orange. Here we schedule our lives around Saturday. Friendships, birthdays, even weddings are celebrated in the light of Boone Pickens Stadium. This is a true sports town. We play high-octane football with hard-hitting defense and the most electric offense in the country. Stillwater rides for the Cowboys no matter what time of year. But the people here are more than just your fans. They're your family. And they'll welcome you in like you've lived here your whole life. In 4 short years, a place you've never been will become a town you'll always call home. And even when you leave, you'll be counting down the days until you come back. There's nothing like this family, this home, and this team. It's Stillwater, America's greatest college town.
Welcome back to the Pope Report. Joining us in the studio is Oak-Hawley sports editor Sadeep Tuma, who's here to continue our NFL scouting reports. Sadeep, I want to move to the defensive side and talk with you about Rodarius Williams. Williams was a shutdown cornerback last season. Quarterbacks rarely threw the ball in his direction. What I want to know is how he's going to project as an NFL cornerback, especially since his brother Greedy was drafted a few years ago.
Yeah, Rodarius obviously took a huge step forward in 2020, became a lockdown corner, like you said, one of the best in the country. But he does it in a multitude of ways. You know, his size, speed, and physicality is what really sticks out about him. And he plays it in Jim Knowles' system as a press man coverage. He wants to get your hands on the receiver, you know, get them frustrated, get them off the route, jam them, and then stick with them, bump and run coverage. And I think that translates really well to the NFL because of how talented receivers are nowadays. You see these big receivers who are obviously so talented. You have 3 of them essentially on every NFL team. So teams are looking for press man corners. But what really impresses me about Rodarius is his ability to tackle in space. You saw it a few times during the season. For a big guy, he's ready to lock in and, you know, tackle in space. And that's so important nowadays because of how NFL teams are with so many, you know, genius, innovative play callers like the Kyle Shanahans of the world, the Sean McVays. They're moving receivers around, getting them in space, and forcing guys to tackle in space. A lot of cornerbacks don't like to tackle, don't like to play run defense, but Rodarius does. So you take all of that and you take his, you know, tremendous ball skills, ability to knock down balls when they're up in the air, you know, box out bigger receivers. I think he fits the NFL nowadays because you need 3 receivers. We also need 3 corners a lot of times. He's not the quickest guy. He's going to struggle against some of the shiftier receivers, but I think he's going to fit a lot of systems that need those press man coverage guys.
No, nicely said, Sadeep. I think that's great. I cannot wait to see where he's going to end up. But Sadeep is going to be back soon to discuss Chuba Hubbard. But first, we're going to take a closer look at Cowboy tennis and the team's fascinating makeup.
Thanks, Kylie. It's actually really fascinating. The men's tennis team has 0 players who were born in the United States. Joel Devick has more on the story.
This season, the Oklahoma State men's tennis team is made up entirely of players who come from overseas. While some outside of the program may view this as a disadvantage, those that are on the team view it as a strength.
It's not necessarily about from which part of the world you are coming, but try to find a way to work with everyone and be flexible and try to understand each other needs and be as a good teammate as you can be. And that's probably the only way how you can build a strong chemistry and well-worked team.
All of OSU's men's team was born in Europe. They hail from 5 different countries spanning the whole of the continent. 3 are from France, 2 are from the UK, another 2 come from the Czech Republic, and Denmark and Belarus are also represented. Altogether, the distance they have traveled from their hometowns to Oklahoma is more than 44,000 miles.
It's kind of a good thing that we're all from the same part of the world, because we've all come here basically on our own, not knowing anyone in the States. So we all, at the end of the day, our teammates are what we have here as our support system. So we count on each other a lot. And I think that's really good on and off the court, because we all have to trust each other and we all give everything for each other. So it's kind of a unique kind of bond that we have, because we're not just teammates. It's more than that. We are like family. The bond is, I think it's stronger than it has ever been with each other. We're all really close.
You know, off the court, these guys, they spend so much time together, and it's great when we're on these trips. It kind of brings you closer because all you have is each other on these trips. And it kind of brings you just really, really close to each other. And that's personally, for a coach, that's what I love, is the relationships you build with your teammates. I want them to definitely just play hard for each other and know that they're playing, because when you grow up playing tennis in juniors, you play for yourself. You lose, it's on you. But here, you're not playing for yourself at all. You're playing for OSU. You're playing for your teammate. You're playing for that guy next to you. These are a great group of guys where they see how good everyone is, and they want it for everybody as well.
Although they've come to Stillwater from very far and wide, it's clear that the bond these international Cowboys have formed is a team unit that displays itself each time they take the court. For the Poke Report, I'm Joel Dievik.
Thanks, Joel. It's interesting to see players from across the world meet up in a tennis court in Stillwater, Oklahoma. We're not done with football yet. We're going to send it back over to the desk with Kylie and Sadeep and finish up the conversation about Chuba Hubbard.
Sadeep Tuma is still here to round out our NFL scouting reports, and we're going to finish with Chuba Hubbard. Hubbard was the Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year, a unanimous All-American, and first-team All-Big 12 in 2019. But he chose to forego the NFL draft and come back to school with Tylan Wallace for his senior year. Many expected Hubbard to follow up his 2019 season as a Heisman hopeful yet again in 2020. That's not what happened, though. He ran for 1,400 fewer yards and 16 fewer touchdowns. So, Sadeep, what has happened to Chuba Hubbard's draft stock?
Well, if I'm any of these teams, I'd throw out the 2020 tape, because I think that's more about the offensive line, the injuries they sustained, the struggles they had, and that's why the entire offense struggled. But you look at the 2019 tape, and Chuba Hubbard's so interesting, because to me, he's, as a runner, just a pure rusher, he's a prolific talent, because he's gone from this guy, obviously we know about the breakaway speed, the long touchdowns, but he's taken his track speed since arriving at Stillwater, and he's transformed himself into a complete running back, right? A guy who's developed such good patience behind his offensive lineman. He can wait for the hole. He's got great vision, especially on zone runs, and then he's got great burst and acceleration once he gets into the second level. He's a one-cut runner. He's going to put his foot in the ground. He's going to make guys miss. He's got great contact balance, so he's able to power through some of those runs. So as a runner, I think he's great. Now the issue is, in today's NFL, we talked about the receivers, but the NFL, obviously, running backs, there's an overabundance of talent, and there's teams that are putting a premium on offensive lines. So Chuba Hubbard, his struggles, that comes from mostly is he a three-down back, right? His receiving talent, we saw him take some strides in 2020, a few screen passes, a quick out, but his pass blocking needs to improve still. So if he can't be a three-down back, teams I don't think are going to invest a high pick into him. And I don't think he can really be the number one back on a team unless he improves that aspect and becomes a three-down back. But as a runner, I mean, his talent is there, and I think that's evident. I think he could be a steal for a team. And it's just going to be on how he improves those aspects, which remains to be seen because we haven't seen it.
No, Sadeep, I really couldn't agree more. I think, he didn't have the best year last year, but I think he really has the potential to show out in the draft and be successful in his career past that. But that's basically 4 Cowboys who will, in all likelihood, be drafted to play football at the next level.
It'll be exciting to see where they go, Kylie, but it also seems like Oklahoma State is going to be losing 4 key pieces that will be hard to replace next season. Before we take a break, Chase Risman is going to tell us who could fill in for them.
The theme of the 2021 Oklahoma State football Cowboys will be turnover. OSU will be losing the elite talents of Chuba Hubbard and Tylan Wallace, but the Pokes look to have solid replacements for Chuba in the likes of Desmond Jackson and Dominic Richardson. As for the wide receiver position, a position where Oklahoma State has produced nothing but elite players, OSU will have several options. The main threat will be 5'8" wide receiver Brendan Presley. He had a breakout performance against Miami in the Cheez-It Bowl, catching 6 passes for 118 yards and 3 touchdowns. Redshirt senior Braden Johnson caught only 1 touchdown in 2020, a disappointing follow-up to his 4-touchdown season in 2019. The 6-foot redshirt senior from Arlington, Texas will need a big bounce back in a season where he will be expected to be one of the main threats. OSU will have a chance to see how well their remaining wide receivers stack up during the 2021 spring game on April the 24th. For the Poke Report, I'm Chase Risman.
Thanks, Chase. When we return, Parker Terrell will debate with an OU student about this year's Bedlam record.
From the plains of Oklahoma is a destination for scholars and thinkers, dreamers and doers. This is where hope, hard work, and integrity create tomorrow's catalyst for change. And excellence is the standard demanded not only of your head, but your heart. This is Oklahoma State University, America's brightest orange.
They say you can't choose your family. But when you choose Oklahoma State, you join the Cowboy family. A family that's loyal and true no matter what. Whether you're from 1,000 miles away or right down the road, if the Cowboys are your family, Stillwater becomes your home. A home where everything you need is a quick walk away. Whether it's time for practice or time for class, nothing is ever too far. Stillwater is a place to connect with your teammates, with the community, and with the world. Everywhere you go, you'll see someone you know, and they'll probably be wearing orange. Here we schedule our lives around Saturday. Friendships, birthdays, even weddings are celebrated in the light of Boone Pickens Stadium. This is a true sports town. We play high-octane football with hard-hitting defense and the most electric offense in the country. Stillwater rides for the Cowboys no matter what time of year. But the people here are more than just your fans. They're your family. And they'll welcome you in like you've lived here your whole life. In 4 short years, a place you've never been will become a town you'll always call home. And even when you leave, you'll be counting down the days until you come back. There's nothing like this family, this home, and this team. It's Stillwater, America's greatest college town.
The Poke Report is back, and we're ending this episode with the debate between our Parker Terrell and Parker Thune from OU. Oklahoma State leads this year's Bedlam series with 15 wins to Oklahoma's 4. But does it actually matter so long as OU keeps winning over OSU in football? Parker Thune, you will go first to make your points. You have 1 minute.
Look, the entire concept of a multi-sport Bedlam series is hilarious to me because except for Duke and North Carolina, the football field is where athletic rivalries happen. Football is the sport people care about the most. No one Saturday lives and dies with the outcome of a wrestling match or a judging competition or whatever other obscure nonsense that OSU champions. Look, Oklahoma State is the insecure younger brother who wants so badly to be relevant and escape the shadow of their older sibling. They want to be kitschy. They want to march to the beat of their own drum. That's the reason why they cling so tightly to that 1945 quote-unquote national championship that is literally a running joke to anyone outside of Stillwater, Oklahoma. Look, the bottom line here is that Oklahoma State's football program is largely comprised of all the athletes that aren't good enough to get recruited by Oklahoma. The Pokes feed on the crumbs from the Sooners table, so I get it. You get the chance to make any semblance of a claim to superiority, you take the opportunity, but let's call a spade here. The Bedlam series happens on the gridiron, and it's one of the most lopsided rivalry series in college football history. Nobody else in America is trying to take a rivalry and make it an aggregate series across every institutionally sanctioned sport except OSU, so
Parker Terrell, your time is now. You also have 1 minute.
Well, to say that football is the only thing that matters, and I totally understand that the amount of the athletic department's revenue is majorly determined by football. But that just totally disqualifies all of the athletes who work so hard every single day at all of the other sports. I guarantee you, down in Norman, if you told somebody that they didn't care about the softball program, they would be irate. So to say that Oklahoma State's softball program doesn't matter, Oklahoma State's wrestling doesn't matter, which has the most national championships in the country, is just asinine. Because again, there are athletes who work and train so hard to compete for national championships, which Oklahoma State has the most of across every sport in the conference. To say that they don't train, to say that they don't work, to say that the coaches don't prepare, totally underwhelms and underestimates the amount of time and effort going into those sports. So to say that football is the only thing that matters.
Now each of you get a 30-second rebuttal. Parker Thune, your time starts now.
Look, not once did I say that those sports don't matter. Obviously, they matter. But this entire effort to make Bedlam a multi-sport entity is Oklahoma State's attempt to obfuscate the utter embarrassment that they are on the football field relative to the Sooners. It's like a boxer who gets TKO'd in 45 seconds but waltzed out of the ring boasting about the one solid punch that he landed. So if your best defense for that 90-18 Bedlam football record is, yeah, but we're good at wrestling, you've already buried yourself. There's no need to argue any further. Yes, those sports matter, but in Oklahoma, football is king.
Parker Terrell, your time starts now.
I don't think anybody is comparing football to all the other sports. I don't think that a reasonable fan would come up and say, if you asked about the 90-18 record in Bedlam, oh, well, we have a great wrestling program. But again, the Bedlam series didn't just begin with football. It began with basketball, baseball, which both schools have such storied traditions in. And I think that to, again, just focus solely on the record in football, especially considering that OU touts their championships from the 50s.
That was such a fun debate. Thank you both for taking the time today.
Now, I know I might sound a little biased, but I kind of agree with our own Parker Terrell. I think if you're going to put a Bedlam stamp on it, it started with basketball and baseball, and then football came around, so that's when Bedlam started. So I think if you have to just think about the football aspect of it, then it's not really Bedlam, it's just a football game. Bedlam is OU versus OSU. At least that's my opinion on the matter.
No, Cameron, I definitely agree, especially when you have 15 and they have 4. I think you definitely have to take into consideration that football isn't the only thing that matters to Bedlam.
I couldn't agree more. But what I'm more concerned with is what you guys think about this. We put a poll on Twitter, and let's take a look at that now. It looks like 73% of our viewers agree that all sports matter, while only 27% say football outweighs all others. Be sure to follow us on social media at The Poke Report. And for Kylie James and Cameron Bloom, this has been The Poke Report. Have a great night.